Before I get into setting up a budget and how to use a budget and potentially maybe scaring some people when they look at a page like this and see all of these big numbers here. Hey, ninja tip for those of you who maybe didn't know this, if you click on the hamburger menu here, we can shrink that down and give you more working space depending on what you're doing. But I don't want anyone to be intimidated by this budget. I'm going to walk you through the wizard and I'm going to walk you through how to create a budget and what it is. What I highly encourage is walking before we run. Don't worry about looking at all these numbers and getting nervous about it. If all you do is set up sales for your first budget, hey, great, good job. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being serious. If you then go to COGS, great, good job. If you go to discounts and labor the next month, that's great. This is a skill, and like any skill, we shouldn't be intimidated by it. We should understand it, and we should practice and get better at it. Most of us didn't get advanced MBAs in finance. Most of us haven't spent the first 10 or 15 years of our careers working in a financial analyst office or a CPA office or as a professional bookkeeper. And so this is new to us, and that's okay. We were never trained in seventh grade how to build a budget for a $3 or $4 million a year restaurant. And that's okay. Just, you can't mess anything up. So one, just dig in, just work on it. If you mess something up, you'll fix it. Worst case scenario, send us an email. Let us know, hey, I totally messed something up. Maybe we can roll your account back. Sometimes there might be a small fee for it, depending on how much work's involved, but it's not that big of a deal. The second thing I want to talk about on budgets before we dig into it is the power of a budget. Most of us are not operating with budgets. Most of us are just setting a goal to be as much sales, as big a sales as possible, and as low expenses as possible so we could make as much money as possible. Hey, that's great. That is the goal. But there are worlds that we live in that make certain things a reality and certain things not a reality. Your sales are not unlimited. They can't go to anything, and your expenses can't go to zero. So the goal is to say to ourselves realistically, how much money do I need to make this year? What's realistic? And how much do I need to do in sales? And how much do I need to do in food costs and labor costs and discounts and rent and everything else to make that number that I want? And what's more important is we don't work in a linear fashion. Maybe some of us are blessed with restaurants that are somewhat equally busy for 12 months of the year, but a lot of us have seasons. A lot of us have up periods and down periods. Some of us winter is busy, some of us winter is slow, and vice versa. And so what's really important is to know, like, let's look at this budget. It's okay to do 187,000 in sales in January because we're going to do 300,000 in June, and we're going to hit our target of 2.9, let's call it 3 million. And if we do all of that, right, we'll make our profit that we're expecting here, whatever that is. In this sample account, it's 4.24%, 123,000. So the point is, if you report sales in January as 189, you did great. You hit your budget, you exceeded it actually. That's fantastic. Unfortunately, without a budget, a lot of us go, oh, we did 189 in January. And we think there's a problem. And we get sad and we get depressed and we go to make all these changes. But in reality, you hit exactly what you're supposed to do, right? And if we look at the whole year and break it down, if we hit our day, every day we'll hit our week. If we hit our week, every week we'll hit our month. If we hit our month every month, we'll hit our quarter. If we hit our quarter every quarter, we'll hit our year. So what it really is about is hitting those daily and weekly targets and then just letting the rest fall into place. I will never forget when I learned the power of a budget. It was about 9 years ago. We came out to Texas. We found the house that we're living in now. We put down a deposit. We signed the contract. I came home and freaked out. because I had about 9 months to come up with X amount of dollars for down payment, furniture, move, 6 months in an apartment while we were finishing the build, relocation of our whole family, the business, everything. And it was a big number. And I got really nervous. And then I sat down with my coach and she had me build out a budget and basically said, okay, let's figure out what your sales are. Let's figure out about what you make in a month. Let's figure out how much you can save. Let's figure out how much you're starting with. And then let's see if the math works out. And I'd kind of done this already in my head. Otherwise, I wouldn't have signed the agreement. But when I put it all on paper and I saw, hey, I'm not where I need to be now, but if I do these reasonable numbers for the next 9 months, I'll have more than I need in 9 months. And we did that. And I moved out here with less stress and we were able to write the checks and do everything we needed to do. So budgeting is so important. Let's dig into exactly how this works in the application. Before we really get into how the budget works, the first thing I like people to do is make sure that they're happy with their chart of accounts. So if you go into your gear, which is your settings, go to list and accounts, you'll see your chart of accounts. Now we preload you with a sample chart of accounts, but that's all it is. It's a sample chart of accounts. It doesn't mean it's the right chart of accounts for you. It's something that I like to call a maximum chart of accounts. By the time we've preloaded your account, there's very few accounts that you should probably be adding to the chart of accounts. Most of you should be deleting 10, 20, maybe 30 of the accounts because you're not using them. And the reason it's important to make sure your chart of accounts is clean and simple is every account that you see here will show up in your budget. The more accounts you have, the more complex your budget gets. And if you're not using those accounts, it just adds a bunch of zeros to your budget. So step one is clean up your chart of accounts. Make sure you're happy with it. Step two is to assign the type of budget to the account. Is it a percentage driver or a dollar driver? And what I mean by percentage or dollar is if you're going to do $100,000 in sales this month and you have an item that is a percentage driver, and let's say that it's 1% of sales, well, then your budget will be set to 1,000. But the next month, if your budget is 150,000 in sales, then the budget for that item will go to 1,500. A lot of the things that are on our budget are percentage driven, but a lot of things are dollar driven. For example, in this case, a cleaning service. If a cleaning service is $300 a month, let's say, it doesn't matter if your sales are 100,000 or 250,000, your cleaning service is still the same price. So that should be set as a dollar driver. So when you change your monthly sales, the dollar amount doesn't change with your sales. And then the last thing to look at here is your COGS. We've released a feature recently that allows you to customize your COGS, meaning in this case, we have store food sales and catering food sales, but we only have food COGS because we can't buy different food for in-store sales and catering sales. We can only buy food. So that's why we have one food COGS account, but two sales accounts. So you can change what we use to compare the COGS food. And that's a setting that you do right here. Now, again, I don't want to get into too much of this. Today is about budgeting. So let's get into the budgeting. There's two ways to create a budget in clickBACON. One is through our wizard and one is through the full year. I already showed you a little bit of the full year. It's my personal preference, but I also understand how intimidating it is. And for many of you, using the budget wizard is going to be a great way to get you started. A couple of key important things here on the wizard. One, we are currently using your previous month's sales if you choose to let us build a budget for you. Actually, your previous month's sales, expenses, everything. We will eventually have the option to use any month that you want. A lot of people have asked to be able to use the same month last year. And that is an option that we will work toward in the future. But the reason we built it with last month is it's so easy to change your sales. And we find that your most recent month's expenses are much more accurate than maybe expenses from a year ago. If you've been working with us for a year, let's say, you've probably made some massive improvements to your operation. You've lowered your food costs, you've lowered your labor costs, you've gotten rid of excess waste. And so to use last year's expenses versus last month's expenses would be much more difficult to adjust than simply saying, hey, I don't think I'm going to do 220 next month. I think I'm going to do 250. And so you literally just simply come into here and you would make the change from 220 to 250,000 and then watch what happens to your daily sales. They all change. This is another thing I wanted to show you is we use an algorithm to create daily sales for you. What did I say earlier? If you hit your day, you'll make your week. If you hit your week, you'll make your month. If you hit your month, you'll make your quarter. If you hit your quarter, you'll make your year. So it all starts with daily. There is no other restaurant tool on the market that I am aware of that will automatically create a daily budget for you by simply looking at your historical data. There are tools where you have to enter your daily budget, but that is very intimidating. All we ask you to do is say, hey, what are you going to do in sales next month? I think we're going to do 250. Great. Enter 250. We look at your historical sales. We build your dailies based on how busy are your Fridays, how busy are your Saturdays, how busy are your Sundays, etc. And then what we do is after we've built your daily sales, and if you are using our wizard, if you are creating a new budget, then what would happen, let me see. Oh, we already have budgets in this account built for a year. I can go forward far enough into 26 where I think it will say, oh no, we built budgets so far into this. So normally what would happen is if you don't have a budget built for that month, there would be a big button here that says, would you like the wizard to help you? You say yes, and then we walk you through this process. But in our category sales, what we're asking for is what percentage of the sales will be in food, beer, wine, liquor, whatever accounts you have set up. COGS is simply asking you, what's your target COGS? 25%, 30%, 35%, 18%, etc. And then on and on and on until you're done and you have a budget. Now, if you come to your full year, you'll be able to view the budget you just built, as well as if you want, you could build out a whole year at a time if you want. You could take a budget that you like and you can copy select. So let's say, hey, we built out a June budget. We really like this. You can copy it to any month or any period that you want. You could also copy to the right. Like let's say you want to take this June budget and copy it for the rest of the year. Copy, carry, right, moves it automatically. You could view your daily sales from the yearly. You could edit your daily sales from the yearly. You can clear out your budget, which I'm not going to do here. But one of the other features I didn't show you is when you copy select is you can copy actuals to a budget. Let me show you what that means. If I show you the forecast, what forecast does is it takes your actuals for months that we've completed and it merges it with your budget for the rest of the year. So if we're looking at forecast, you'll see kind of this darker gray color and then this lighter white. We have finished all the way through August. So August is actual data. July is actual data when we're in forecast mode. But September, we're not done with yet. So we're using budget for September, October, November. And what this is going to show you is how you are trending when we combine your actual year and your remaining budgeted year. In this case, if you remember, we were targeting about 2.9 and we're now targeting about 2.99, about 3, which means we're up by about $94,000 right now, which is great. This doesn't mean we're up 94 for the year. This means if we finish our year on budget or exceed budget, we will be up by 94. It's a great indication of how your year's going. Again, and then we do the same thing with expenses all the way down to the bottom line where it shows here, we're looking like we are going to be a higher profit than we had originally planned, which is fantastic. And so what I wanted to show you here also is in forecast is, let's say we're building a budget for the first time. We've been using the app for maybe 5 or 6 weeks and we have a full month of data, but we don't have a budget for the rest of the year. We could then take, let's say August, assume September had nothing in it. We could clear that out. We could take August and we could copy select actual to September of 25. And now it's going to take our actual numbers, fill it into September, and then now we can go back here and clean it up a little bit. What did I say we were going to do? I thought we were going to do 250,000 in sales. If you'll notice, everything now adjusts off of that. Let's say, you know what? We're having some trouble with food cost. We've been hitting about 27, 28, but for this month, I want to hit 26. That's my goal. So we can change that. NA beverage, no way. We're going to hit 21% on NA beverage, and it's just that simple to come in here and change it. Now, something that has a dollar driver, if you'll notice, when I go to change this one, it's going to ask me for a dollar amount. So let's say that, I'm just making this up, CO2 gas is costing us $100 a month. There you go. Now, the difference that I want you to pay attention to is that that didn't work. We'll go ahead and mark that as a bug. It happens. Let's see if I can get that to work. Okay, it says success this time, but that's not working. That's okay. You get the idea of what it's supposed to do. We'll get that fixed this evening for you. But again, that's the overall budget, how to use the budget. Kind of the last thing as I'm looking through my notes that I think actually there's one more thing. I want to talk about importing, but before I do that, what's really important to note is that the budget drives almost everything on your dashboard. So having a budget is important. Again, like I said earlier, I don't want you to be brand new and then freak out because you've only been using the app for a couple of weeks. There's a lot of numbers. You've got zeros in certain places. You've got warnings that say you need to create a budget. Like, that's okay. We'll get better at it. But there is a reason why almost everything is driven by budget. And that's because, to me, as an operator and in my coaching, that's probably the most important thing we can do to improve your finances, is to work toward a budget. The most important thing we can do is to have a goal in mind and work toward it. When we see people increase their profits by 6, 7, 8, 9% within 2, 3, 4 months of using this application, it's because they started using the application with a budget and started getting these warnings flashing in their face that said, you purchased too much liquor, you're over on labor, you're not hitting your sales. And then we put strategies in place to do that. So a lot is driven by the budget because I think it's that important. But again, like I said, if you see a warning, just know that you'll get there. You'll set up a budget. While we're here, we talked about this when we did dashboard, but this will make more sense now. This is an opportunity for you to adjust your daily budgets. So let's look at next week. And let's say, okay, we're predicted to do 84, 83 on Monday. Maybe we're going to do 10,000. It's a holiday. Maybe we're going to do 5,000. It's a holiday. You can make that change here, and then it changes everything in your budget. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is the ability to export and import a budget. I'm not going to actually do it here, but if you click on export, your budget will be created into an Excel spreadsheet. Some people prefer Excel spreadsheets. So what you can do is you could then edit your spreadsheet, make any changes, updates, run any formulas, do anything you want, and then re-upload that into here, and it will make the adjustments. This is great for next year. So you could export For example, you could export your forecast. Let's say January 1st, January 2nd, you could export your full year of actuals, make the changes you want to make, and then re-upload it as your budget. And when you upload it, it will give you the question of, do you want this to be uploaded into what year do you want it? And are you uploading this into your budget? And so again, without getting into too much of the details on how to do that, I wanted to make sure I shared that with you.